in Central PA, so around this area down in West Branch. I was fortunate enough to get accepted to University of Pennsylvania, Ivy League school in Philadelphia. Unfortunate enough to go to Penn and discover the interest of alcohol. I'll tell you this because I think it leads to some of the things we do at Videon when we're hiring people. Drank heavily for a year or so, left Penn. Thanks to my now wife Jackie, a few other people, straightened myself up, graduated from Penn State as a computer science major. Started working at Penn State in the Applied Research Lab doing signal processing for torpedoes. Along the way, you'll see where this gets back to Videon. So, and you know, I really want to start this out. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm really better when people are asking me questions than when I'm up here blathering on. If there's something you're interested in, feel free to ask. When I started working at Videon, or ARL, I did side work for a company called Paragon. Paragon did video playback boards for old PCs. This was back in the day before any of you remember, and PCs couldn't play back video. They were too underpowered, so you put dedicated hardware in for it. I did consulting for them. Turned out that company got bought by another company. They started doing DVD playback, and they hired me on full time. So for the next year was actually a pretty exciting time in my life. We got spun off, we got a new CEO, we are now a company called Videon, and we did the first DVD playback board for PCs, done by Diamond Multimedia, who was a graphics card provider back in the time. We won an award for PC World. We were the little startup that was going to take off. We had investment. It was going to be awesome. And then our CEO decided that he should start an online store. He bankrupted the company. We didn't get paid for 3 months. My wife got very upset when we had no more money in the bank. The company went away. So out of that, you would think that we'd all just step back and say, let's get a nice, secure job. Let's go work at Penn State, right across there, HRB, someone like that. That makes sense. No, 6 of us said, well, let's start another company. And we had $5,000. So not probably the smartest decision I've ever made, but it's worked out fine. What we did is we went out to all the contacts we had made, and we started just, to be honest, we were begging for work. And we started doing reference designs for people. Now, reference designs are things that chip companies like Intel, Cirrus Logic, Broadcom do. They have a chip. You put a board together, a software package, and you can deliver it to customers to make products. So we started doing just engineering for hire. We would work for them, we charge them X dollars, we give them X hours. But we actually had a plan, and our plan was that we wanted to take those boards, we wanted to take the technology that we learned about and apply it to vertical markets. One thing you realize when you start working with people like Broadcom, Intel, Cirrus Logic, is the fact that they like selling chips. They like selling millions of chips. They don't like selling 1,000 chips. But there are a lot of people out there that have great ideas of what they can do, but they can't buy millions of chips. They're only going to sell 1,000 boards. And you may not become a billion-dollar company by doing this, but you can become a $10 million or $15 million company by doing this. So every time we negotiated a contract, we gave them a lower rate, but we got to resell their chips. And the one place where we really got to take off was in in-flight entertainment. So in-flight entertainment, you know, if you've ever flown on a plane, yeah, there are movies there. But once you get to a certain amount of richness, you get to buy your own plane. And this is the private jet industry. And these private jets have their own DVD and Blu-ray players inside of it. So what we did was take the DVD technology that we worked on for a company called Cirrus Logic and made a DVD player for a plane. Now the reason you have to do that for a plane is that, quite honestly, you have to be very careful when you put electronics in a plane. And the entertainment system has to be rugged enough that it won't crash a plane. There was actually a Swiss Air plane that went down and killed people because the game system in it overheated, fried out the communication, and it crashed in Scotland. So these people can't go and buy a Samsung Blu-ray player and put it in the plane. They have to custom design hardware. So that means the Blu-ray player that you buy at Best Buy or Walmart for $100 costs $5,000 for a plane. But it also means you only sell 200 a year. So this is the market we started going after, and we were really quite successful. We ended up working with companies like Rockwell Collins and Lufthansa Technik in Germany. Lufthansa, we actually, we started working with some of these things. You get to name drop, and I'll do that because it's fun. We got in trouble because our DVD player was on Oprah's private jet and it stopped working in one of her flights. So we had a guy call it out to fix it because Oprah wants it fixed. The best plane we ever worked on was the King of Bahrain. And if you don't know where Bahrain is, it's a small island off the east of Saudi Arabia. And it's got a lot of oil money, and the king has 2 747s. So that's kind of sweet. It's good to be the king, right? I mean, so I personally got to work on that plane. It was the inside of that plane was nicer than my house. So this is where we came from. We, of course, were doing DVD stuff, and then we started branching into Blu-ray. And Blu-ray's really been successful for us, and not just from a vertical market. We actually have Blu-ray software that runs on Blu-ray players. If you don't know, much about the technology of Blu-ray, there's actually a Java virtual machine on a Blu-ray disc. So there's a little Java program running whenever you run a Blu-ray disc. It's part of the reason it takes so long to start up. So we supply the software that runs on those boxes. We actually worked with companies like Broadcom and Intel to provide Blu-ray software. We have actually shipped about 22 million, there's 22 million units out there that have shipped with us software inside of it. We're in LG, most LG and Samsung players right now. So, it's kind of amazing that you look at it and you have, 6 dweeby guys from the middle of Pennsylvania starting a company. None of us were, came from anything special, and now we have a company that's dealing with kind of the blue chips of the world. We work with Intel, we work with Broadcom, we're working with Qualcomm, Marvell. We've supported people like Sony, Samsung, LG. So, and what we do is we provide the Blu-ray software for everything. It's kind of a nutshell of where we came and what we do. We can talk a lot about the technology that we do. I don't know if how much more I can go there, but one of the things I wanted to bring up was the fact that the kind of people we look for at Videon, because we're doing this Fling Fest. No one ever does anything out of the kindness of their heart, right? We're not giving away $2,000 just because we like people and we have an excess of $2,000 in our pocket. We do it because we're recruiting people like you. We want you to come and see us, want to see you, and see how you perform, to be honest. So a lot of what we try to do at Videon, we can say all day, we work with Intel, we work with Blu-ray. We really do work with cool technologies. And if you like that, we're here. We look for people who like that. One of the questions, I don't know if it was Jeff, or who asked me is, what do we look for in employees? When you send your resume in to us, what do we look for? There are certain calling cards that we have that we look for when we're talking to people. If we're hiring you for software engineering, you have to be able to be a C programmer or a Java programmer. You have to have programming experience. But that's just a calling card. Everybody's going to have that on their resume. Next thing companies tend to look for are GPAs. And quite honestly, we don't care that much. Yeah, if you come in with a 1.8, we're going to say, what, WTF? Why do you have a 1.8? That's kind of hard to get. I had a 1.8 at Penn. I drank a lot. That's how I got a 1.8, right? So the question is, what do you do and why do you want to do it? And it's really about the passion of what you do. We have a lot of guys come in now because the startup is the glory boy, right? Everybody wants to go to California, start their startup, make their millions of dollars, and go retire. But what we're looking for are people who actually want to do what we do. The question I ask more than any interview or look at any resume is, what have you done in technology that you didn't get rewarded for? You guys are all smart. You guys know how to go to college. Someone gives you an assignment, you get it done. You get an A on it. The reason you did the assignment is because you got an A on it. You may have a summer job. You may have an internship. You got paid to program something. That's great. What did you do that you didn't get paid for, you didn't get graded on? Do you really love what you do every day? Give you some examples of guys we have today at Videon. One guy, this was back before everybody had a Gmail or Yahoo account, but I asked him about it. He had set up a mail server for his fraternity because he felt his fraternity house should have its own domain and its own email system. I had another guy, let's see, who writes, he started a couple years ago for us. He writes games for the old 8-bit Nintendo system. NES, yes. He programs them, he writes them in assembly, and he actually just published his own game for NES. There are people out there who buy new NES games. So this is something you look at. My favorite story of all time, from the favorite name I've ever had as an employee, was Max Towers. So Max came in, and great guy, he had a good resume. And I asked him that question. I said, what do you do that you didn't get paid for? And he looked at me, he goes, nothing. And I'm, really, nothing? Nothing at all. You can't give me one thing that you've done that you haven't done out of school. So he was about ready to get thrown in the out bucket right there, right? And then he looks at me and goes, well, I'm working on this project. And I said, okay, what is it? And he goes, well, I'm really tired of Penn State being ranked low in the rankings. So he set up a web page that took in all the stats from all the football teams and was generating a web ranking that would always put Penn State at the top. And he said, if I run this for 5 years, I get to get in the BCS scheduling system. So he set up a whole website, he set up all the programming, he did all the statistics to automatically generate Penn State as #1. And he had to keep modifying it to make sure they always came #1. These are the things we look for. These are people who actually like technology and like playing with it. So I think one of the things you can look at is, one of the questions is, why do you do what you do? And if you're really interested, there are ways of doing this even, outside of doing stuff like that. There's open source. There's so much open source projects today that you can go out and help with and volunteer. We actually hired a guy who failed out of Cornell. And he was at State College, and we probably wouldn't have hired him, except he was a contributor to WinCVS, which is an open source project. And when you ask the people in the WinCVS project about him, they couldn't say enough good things. He wrote good code, he wrote good code, he wrote it fast, he wrote it well. And why did he fail out of Cornell? Well, yes, he had personal problems at the time and it didn't go well. He was one of our best employees, and we lost him to Google 2 years ago. It was not good. So, there's a lot to look forward to, but if you want to get a job and you're looking about how you promote yourself, these are ways you can promote yourself. That's enough of my preaching. Hope it was okay.
I have 2 questions.
Good, I love questions.
The first question kind of is a real general question, obviously, but
I like questions from these guys better, but from you, okay. All right.
Starting salary ranges, just for a data point. I mean, I agree with you, you don't work for money, but just what kind of starting salary range are you looking at?
So, this is always a good one because, what is a starting salary for Central PA? Software programmers we're seeing start from anywhere from, I'll throw it out there, it's from 50 to 60K is the starting salary we're seeing coming out of Penn State. I will be honest with you, if you go to larger metropolitan areas, you'll see a bigger number. My son, as I was telling some people earlier, works for Google. I'll be honest with you, if you guys can get a job with Google, go for it. It's freaking awesome, okay? But if you can't, you're going to be out in the West Coast, and he's in a one-bedroom studio apartment paying $1,600 a month. So he pays more a month. He pays almost twice as much a month as I pay for my house in Central PA. So there are things you have to look at. So that was question number one.
Second question, now that you're an old fart, somebody did old fart.
Yeah.
When you started out at college in your early 20s, did you follow the path you thought you were going to follow? Did you do exactly what you ended up wanting to do, or what happened?
I always say I follow the path of least resistance. I can honestly say when I was graduating from college, I was probably one of the most immature people I know. If it wasn't for my wife at that time, I probably would be a drunken cab driver in Philadelphia. One of the great things, I had a friend I worked with at Penn State, he said, one of the great things about the United States is you can be a total screw up until you're 20 or 30, and you can still make a great success out of yourself. So I think it's, one of the keys is to be open to what's out there. When I grew up right outside Penn State. I mean, to be honest with you, everybody's goal was to get a job at Penn State. If you got a job at Penn State, that was freaking awesome. You were set for life. I worked at Penn State and I quit to go to a little startup. And I know my parents, my in-laws, and everyone thought I was an idiot, but it's worked out pretty good. So I can't say that I really knew where I was going when I graduated from college. I know when I graduated from college, I was very glad to have a job and start working. But quite honestly, you never know where you're going to end up.
I'll agree to that.
All right.
Jeff probably knew, but yes.
There are certain people in this world that scare me. People that can plan their life from the age of 18, and married couples that never fight. These people scare me. I just don't like it. All right. So I didn't know I was going to have these huge screens, or else I would have brought another cable, show you some cool stuff. But one thing I want to talk about is Avia. Avia is an Android app we've written, and our Fling Fest. Videon does Blu-ray software. We do DVD, we do CDs. How many people here have a Blu-ray player? Got maybe like a third? How many people watch streaming things like YouTube, Netflix? Right? Oh, everybody. Well, gee, let's look at the future. We always refer to ourselves as a shiny disc company. And it actually started becoming a problem because in 5 years, you're not going to make much money off shiny discs. So what we're doing is we're starting to, the nice marketing term is rebrand ourselves as a streaming company. So we worked with people at Google and people at Sony. They were releasing their Google TV box. And the Blu-ray player, if you get a Sony Blu-ray Google TV box, that's our software. Well, they're releasing Google TV and they weren't going to put a media player in it. So they asked us to do a media player. So what we have is the application we call Avia. It's an Android app. You can get it for your cell, tablet, or your Google TV box. And it's basically a player for your personal content within your house. We try to make it the window into your house, all your content. So if you have a tablet, a cell phone, one of the problems we saw was that you have content everywhere in your house. You take pictures on your cell phone, you download music on your computer, you play movies on your tablet. And depending on where you're at and what you do, you only see some of your content. Well, there's a technology, I don't know if you guys have heard this, called DLNA. You guys familiar with it? So DLNA is a great thing. Inside your house, it lets you see everything there. So our Avia app is a DLNA app. It lets you play stuff off of Microsoft Windows Media Player, any DLNA server like the Xbox Media Player, Plex. We support all of these. But what it does is it presents the data in a uniform way. It's a little small, but this is a Seuss transformer. It's our Via app. And so basically it just comes up and it gives you an index into your music, your videos, and your photos. And you can pop it open and see all the music you have. We try to make it so it sees what I have over there is a Kindle Fire. We also support the Kindle Fire. It allows you to see your content there. It allows you to see your content on your PCs. So that's not really that thrilling. Everybody has one, right? Part of the reason we don't do an iOS app is because iOS has iTunes. But one thing DLNA does give you, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure, that is a concept called Fling. And what Fling is, it's actually, DLNA calls it a media renderer. But it works out like this. I have my Kindle Fire here. And it will turn on. Now, because I'm me, this isn't a stock Kindle Fire. It runs Jelly Bean, because why get electronics if you can't play around with them, right? But if you have a Kindle Fire, you can download it from the App Store. It's the same thing. So I'm reading a book on my Kindle Fire, and my kids come bug me, or my grandkid now. Say they want to see a movie. And say that tablet is the TV in their room, the Google TV box. I have Kung Fu Panda here. I can press on it, and we have Fling too. I can hit it. Key to one of these demos is always bring your own network, because otherwise it won't work. And what you see, and what you may not be able to see, is that now I'm playing Kung Fu Panda over here. Good movie. Yeah. This really has a lot of features, a lot of uses out there. One is the fact that as you get older like me and you have pictures of grandchildren, you want to show them to people. But showing them on this or that kind of stinks when you have a 50-inch TV in your house. So we can fling pictures. So you're sitting around the living room, you want to show someone pictures. You can throw them up to the screen. Say you're watching a YouTube video. On your screen, you want to show the other guys in the room. You can fling it up there. These are all standard use cases that old people like me have thought of. What we're trying to do with FlingFest, there's two keys to this. And there's two reasons we're holding this. One is, as I said before, is recruiting. Talk to you guys, get you guys in the place, give me a reason to come out here and babble. The other reason is, how else can we use this? And that's the real key to this. This is a standard protocol. This isn't something from Apple where you have to sign a big developer's license to get access to it. This is an open standard. Anyone can write to it. There are open source projects like